Hello all, Detailed Creative here, and our other guest, Horsecraz. Well, not other, but our guest, Horsecraz.
Hello. Oh no.
That's fine. That's fine.
Uh,
Anyway,
no
we
one saw
are
that.
here in the world of Physaria, and we are in the Dryad Cave, or Elphinora's Cave, as some of you may know.
That I definitely did not just destroy. Nope.
Yes, totally. That was just the tree just happened to just want to break out, you
Spontaneously
know?
combust. Yep. Uh-huh.
Totally wasn't like some type of vandalism. But anyway, we're we're here to talk about another episode here on the Beyond the Roleplay podcast. For the subject that we have for you guys today, we'll be talking about how much is too much for a roleplay. That is thinking about it as you just want to start a roleplay and there's so many different things you want to add to this roleplay. But we've got to be realistic here. Like some of the things that you really want to add will take a lot of time. So either A, you put in the time needed for it in the materials, or B, you learn how to manage with the things that you have. You can there's always a choice for you to do the top-notch thing that you want to do, but you also have to remember that time is not as a negative thing, but time is generally something that will be factored into it.
They do say time is money.
Yes. So you'll have to look into it like, okay, what type of response do I want when you're making this role play? If the response you want is that as you start putting the episodes, you start growing and then are able to eventually be paid from doing the role plays or just doing it for fun, well, you won't get paid for. Well, technically, yes, you still could get paid for fun because it is fun to make role plays, right?
Yes.
But in that case, there's a lot of different things you have to think of when you're making this investment. I said role plays as investment, but but
I mean, they can be.
yes, it's just funny because I'm using a term that I'm thinking of for something different, but it can be an investment. So when you're making this role play, you should definitely think about it. It's like, okay, if you have the time, you have to think of, do you have the time, do you have the resources, and do you have like the money as what we could think of for different things? Because if you want things like voice actors or all those different type of people helping on your server, that will require money. And that would take less time, of course, because it doesn't take a lot of time for people who are already good at what they do to make stuff that they're good at what they do. And you also have to think about materials. Do you currently have what you believe to be the best set for it? You don't have to have the best set for it to make videos, but at the same time, you should factor that in, because if you see all those different things and you look at that, it's like, okay, if I don't necessarily have the resources, do I want to A, fund for the resources, or do I want to B, continue with what I have and put more time into it? So do you have anything else to think about this, Horsecraz?
Yes. I think from a personal standpoint, I'm kind of in a pretty decent middle ground of all these kind of factors that go into it being time. I'm a college student. I'm not doing like too many classes though, so I do have a decent amount of time on my hands, which is one of the big factors. And I'm not totally broke. I know I'm breaking stereotypes here. I pay for a server. These are all important things to think about though, for sure. Because you can go at like the bare minimum, like least amount of time possible to make them, putting no money in, and you could make something pretty good. But you also have to think about what's your, like, I'm trying to remember what it's called, but I'm bad at remembering what things are called. Welcome to Horsecraz. But like, you've got to understand when you put a certain amount of work or time or money into something compared to another certain amount of work or time or money into something, they're going to be different. Your product is going to be different.
I see. Yeah, I totally agree with that because depending on how much time and all those different resources you could, well, different aspects you could put into things is how it will end up becoming. For instance, like I've seen how certain people that make roleplays are able to do a lot of stuff in editing. And it's like, wow, that looks really great. Like you could make like all those different effects from editing, but at the same time I'm like, okay, I don't necessarily have that skill. So instead, like I ended up building on the skills that I did have to get better at them, which is exactly why you'll see certain places that have changed over time in my roleplay because of like, for instance, Barry's house. But different things like that. Like for instance, when you look at your roleplay, how much are you going to be building in it? Like what's the amount of building that's going to happen? Because the thing is that you don't have to have a whole kingdom to make a roleplay. You could literally just have like a neighborhood that you make.
You could even just have one house if you
And
wanted.
yep. Or a white room. White room. But basically, the thing with that is when it comes to the amount of building, you should know that if you, for instance, are someone who is not necessarily the best builder, in that aspect, you, well, talking to back to one of the things we mentioned before, which is maps, you might want to look into getting a map that has buildings or having people who are good at building help you in that. So that is one of the things that you may look at as like, okay, do I want to get a large map or different things like that? So what I'm trying to say is the amount of building for your roleplay, you have to decide before you start the roleplay. And it's a good thing that to make sure that there's not too much wasted space. Because if you want to make the place look good for it to look good, that's totally on you. Like I'm kind of like that. Like I like to make whole villages and kingdoms to the point where I think I made like 7 kingdoms. But it's that's the thing that like I enjoy doing. So I guess you have to factor in enjoyment. But you also got to make sure that if you're starting a roleplay, just know that one thing is you don't have to make all the buildings immediately. You don't have to have the entire world created before you start the roleplay. As far as it's not going to be seen, you could start the roleplay as soon as you make one house. Or literally, you just live by yourself. All those different things can be added along the way. So once you start your roleplay, you don't have to have everything ready. You could start the roleplay and then as you're making the roleplay, add more different things to it. You have anything else to add, Horsecraz?
Definitely. What it kind of like basically comes down to is finding the right balance for you of what you're going to put in versus what you want to put out. And if you want to put in like a lot of work, a lot of time and energy, even a lot of money, but you don't have the resources at the current time, just note that you can always improve stuff like that later along the line. There's always room for improvement. And that's something I think both of us and anyone who creates basically anything out there will tell you. There's always room for improvement.
Yes. I would say that 100% because as I look back on my episodes that I made for the first time, I'm happy I made them. I just look at them though and I'm like, there's so much that could be different. Like even my acting, oh my gosh. In the first
Yes.
episode, I asked why it was raining. Why was it raining? I said. But yes, I was really trying to act there and I questioned the weather. But yes, there's always more room for improvement as you get further along in your roleplay style and working in different role plays. You will understand a bit more, like as I'm still learning. Not saying that like I'm a professional or like Horsecraz is a professional. We're on the path of just learning and just doing our best, right?
Absolutely.
So, so in that path, let's talk about the other aspect, which is, okay, so when we're talking about how much is too much for a role play, when we think about the topic of paying people, for instance, voice actors, body actors, builders, I would say not to break your bank for it.
Please
Basically, I I really wouldn't want to see that someone has decided to make everything completely built, got all the best buildings, got the voice actors and all that stuff, and then that's only episode 1. Because the main thing is just, you should look at it like, okay, this is something like how is the role play to you? Because for most, it's for most, like say like for myself and Horsecraz, we haven't gotten to the point in specifically on the YouTube side that we're getting profit back from it. So in that point, it's like, okay, do we want to act as if we have it, will have the profit back, or would we want to put things in other areas? Like, for instance, put focus in other areas. What I'm really trying to say here is, if you have the funds and like you have the materials, go ahead, make your passion project. Go ahead, get the body actors, all those people, and just go ahead and do that for your role play. Because if you have like the ability to, and it's not breaking your bank, as we say.
Yes, please don't break your
then
bank.
yes,
Your poor piggy will be very sad at you.
We do not advise you breaking your bank. Please leave the piggy alone, okay? But basically, when it comes to like when it's too much for roleplay, just make sure when you're looking at it, it's like whatever happens, happens. Just make the episodes. If you really want this to become something serious in the future, then keep at it. What I would advise against, as we're mentioning, is going too far in the monetary sense. I did hear from a YouTuber that, for instance, like when it comes to the best set, best all these things, like for instance, the best voice recorder, the best headset, the best computer, I feel like that should be done more on a once you get to the ability to have it, but not doing it originally just 100% for YouTube. Because YouTube is random. YouTube is real random.
Well, I mean, technically there's an algorithm to it, but, you know, I mean, figuring that out is, it's basically random. But.
Well, yeah. It's like, I understand what you're saying, Horsecraz. I'm trying to explain that it's the whole, like, you could tell when something's really good on YouTube, and you could, there's also the algorithm, which YouTubers are still trying to figure out more and more about as time goes by, and it seems like once you figure it out, it just slips away from you. But like in general, like there's still the fact that those who do well are also, there's a lot of people who are really good at what they do and they do well on YouTube. But yes, so the main thing that I'm talking about when I'm saying how much is too much for your roleplay is just, if it's more than the means you have available to you, then you don't necessarily have to go that far. If the way you're seeing the roleplay is seeing that you have to have all these voice actors, just remember that you don't have to have all the voice actors. I mean, well, up till like now, for the most part, I've done a lot of voicing on my own role play, which is how I came up with different character voices. But what I'm saying here is, since you guys are watching on my channel, you most likely have seen my role plays and are interested in my role plays. So this is just a reminder that you don't necessarily have to have all these different people voicing different things. Just when you decide to make a role play, understand how much you can use for the roleplay, like of your time, of your resources, of your money, and just make sure to just at the end of the day just enjoy it. Don't get caught up in the don't get caught up in, oh, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough resources. Like, what, my stuff isn't the best, because I honestly I've seen some very sketchy stuff coming from my own computer. But basically, it's just to mention that at the end of the day, just have fun with it. Don't, as I said, don't get caught up in all the other things that you feel you need, and just keep going at it one step at a time.
Absolutely.
Do you have anything? Oh, sorry.
Can I say something a little bit off topic?
Sure.
A lot of YouTubers, at least I feel like a lot of YouTubers go through after they've made like a lot of videos and stuff and go and hide their like oldest videos and unlist them and all that. And I feel like that's such a shame because they like maybe they're like, oh, this is old and awful, and we all look back and we all are like, oh my goodness, our first videos, all of that is old and awful and all of that. But I want to challenge everyone watching this video. This is a challenge for everyone here. Look back at your old videos and don't think about how bad they were. Think about how far you've come from then. Think about how that compares to what you're doing now. What things you've improved on, what things you can still improve on. And just, I challenge everyone to have a better mindset about their old videos. Don't hide your old videos. Let the world know that you were just once this, you know, whatever that first video of you was. You started somewhere, and they can too. So, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
A little off topic, but I felt that was very important to say.
No, that was very, very nicely said, Horsecraz. Very, very wise words. Wise words, indeed. That was great. So yes, as she's saying, like, for instance, if you, because I've seen, like, for instance, I'll talk from my own experience. From seeing the videos I made in the past, I see a lot of things that I've learned to do differently, and I've learned to pay a lot more attention to things, because there's so many things I can mention from, like, the first episode that I'm like, oh, now I've learned different from how I used to do things. But the fun part is when, like, you go through the different things, your episodes, the first few episodes you made, you'll see, like, for instance, I started learning the episode that I first created, the Barry voice, which is this voice right here, which some of you may remember, some of you may not, but some of you maybe even be new here. But basically, I did learn that I did start slowly introducing these different character voices, and the growth from there was how I could now look back and be like, okay, now I can, I think, like, the Petey voice is technically where the Barry voice used to be. But it's just things like along that path to just teach you. So that can be tied in, though, as another reminder. The first few episodes that you make, they don't have to be perfect. That's actually the best part, because you can look back on it, you can learn things from it. And that's why, when it comes to thinking of what you want to do for your roleplay, just know that you don't have to have everything all put together just perfectly and neatly and all this great stuff for you to make a roleplay episode. And that's what I wanted to let you guys know.
You have
any more words to say?
I feel like I didn't even like have to talk very much during this episode because you just put everything so eloquently.
Well, thank you for that. So until then, this has been Detailed Creative, and that's Horsecraz over there.
I would wave again, but the tree might spontaneously combust again.
I'll put a link to her video, because This is the 5th video. The 6th video will be on her channel for Beyond the Roleplay. I'll put a link to her channel. And until then, I hope you guys stay creative.
Bye.